I told my mom my sick family couldn't come to my house for Thanksgiving, and she started crying and hung up on me. So my nephew got diagnosed with hand, foot, and mouth disease about 2 weeks ago. If you don't know what that is, it's super contagious and causes these painful blisters all over your hands, feet, and mouth. It spreads like wildfire, especially with kids. My sister and her husband live with my parents, and a few days ago we found out they both caught it from their son. So now 3 people in that household are actively contagious with this virus that spreads through basically everything: saliva, mucus, blister fluid, even just touching surfaces. Originally, the plan was that Thanksgiving would move to my house since their house was basically a biohazard zone. My sister and her family said they wouldn't come, they'd just stay home and rest. That seemed fair. I have 4 kids, and the last thing I need is all of them getting sick right before the holidays. Then my mom called me yesterday and casually mentioned that actually my sister, her husband, and their toddler would be joining us at my house after all. I immediately said no. I told her I didn't want them in my house while they were still contagious. Here's the thing. The last time hand, foot, and mouth got into my house, it was an absolute nightmare. All 3 of my older kids caught it and were out of school for weeks. They didn't just get a mild case either. They had blisters everywhere that turned into severely peeling skin that actually bled. My youngest gets sick super easily, and I can't risk putting her through that. My mom's solution was ridiculous. She said my sister and her husband would wear gloves and sit at a separate table away from everyone else. But then she added that my nephew, who is under 2 years old, would have free roam of my entire house. This kid puts everything in his mouth. He touches everything. He's a toddler. That's what toddlers do. I asked my mom why, if they were so set on having Thanksgiving at my house, couldn't we just have it at their house instead? You know what she said? She said they didn't want to do it there because then they would have to sanitize everything afterward. I lost it. I told her it was completely unfair that they weren't willing to sanitize their own house so people could come over safely, but they had no problem coming to my house and potentially infecting my entire household. How does that make any sense? That's when my mom started crying and said she wasn't going to have this conversation with me anymore. Then she just hung up. Here's what makes this situation even more complicated. My parents are providing 100% of the Thanksgiving meal, and my husband and I are going through some legal trouble right now that my parents offered to help us with financially. But my mom is the type of person who uses gifts as leverage. If I tell her no to anything, even if it's completely reasonable, she'll take back whatever she promised. So I was stuck. I didn't want to cancel the whole holiday because we genuinely needed their help. But I also wasn't going to let my sister bring her contagious family into my home and risk my kids getting severely sick again. I ended up calling my dad directly and explaining everything. Then I called my sister and told her the same thing. My sister got super defensive at first, acting like I was being dramatic and overreacting. But my dad actually put his foot down on my behalf, which honestly shocked me. He told my sister they weren't coming over, and that was final. He also said he would talk to my mom and calm everything down. My mom tends to get emotional and dramatic about stuff like this, but my dad is usually more reasonable once he hears the full picture. So the update is that Thanksgiving is still happening, just on a different day when nobody is contagious anymore. My sister and her family are staying home like they originally planned. And my dad handled my mom so I didn't have to deal with more crying and guilt trips. I still can't believe my mom thought letting a sick toddler run around my house touching everything was a reasonable compromise.